my dears, and welcome back. I'm Shannon, and today I've got another book related video to share with you guys. Earlier today I was watching one of my favorite booktubers, Jordan Lane Reads, and she posted a video where she ranked in order from worst to best all of the books that she had read so far in 2022. Now, she had read like 42 books. I'm not on that level. I'm not that fast of a reader, but I loved the video, loved the idea. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do that too. So I'll of course post a link to her video down below. You can go and check it out. And I know in her video, she posted a link to where she saw this. So you can go check them out too. Anyway, so far I've read 15 books in 2022. And for the most part, I enjoyed most of them. So this made ranking these books a little difficult. I knew who number one was going to be. I knew. And I knew who the bottom two were going to be. But the rest, I loved them all. So, but yeah, the bottom two, wasn't a huge fan of those two. And that's where we're going to start. Now, not to say these are bad. I'm sure other people loved them, but they just weren't for me. So, number 15 was Lucky by Marissa Stapley. Now, this book was about a girl named Lucky, and we go back and forth in timelines, and just kind of about her life, and her life as a criminal and a grifter, and her dad who's a grifter, and back to timelines when she was a kid to when she's an adult. And it didn't do a lot for me. I didn't really like any of the characters. And in the book talk video that I did for that video, I told you to tell me the next time I go to pick up a book with the Reese's Book Club sticker on there, don't do it, because I'm disappointed every single time. Number 14, The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. This one was okay. I just kept thinking it was going somewhere bigger, and it didn't. So it's about this woman, and one day her husband disappears, and she's left with his daughter, so like her stepdaughter, and he's just gone. And he left his daughter, with a ton of money, her with a very cryptic note. And then the book kind of kicks off, and we're waiting to find out what's going on, what's happening, what's going on. And I just kept waiting for big twists and big surprises, and they never came. And I was disappointed with it. Number 13, The Heights by Louise Candlish. Again, now we're into the part where I liked all the books. Just had to put them in order somehow. This one was fine. It was a recent read. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, I remember now. It took me a minute there to remember what it was even about. But it's about this woman who one random day sees a man in the city. He's far away. She sees him and she's like, that can't be. And I know that can't be because he's dead. And I know that he's dead because I murdered him. And from there, everything kicks off. And, it was fun. I enjoyed it. It wasn't a fave, obviously. It's number 13. But I didn't hate it by any means. And it definitely kept me guessing. Number 12, The Good Son by Jacqueline Mitchard. This was great. This book starts off with a woman going to pick her son up from prison. And he's in prison because, and none of these are spoilers. These are all things that either happen immediately or it's on the back. But he's in prison because he killed his girlfriend, allegedly. And it just kind of goes on with the son coming home, having to deal with life back in his old hometown where everyone thinks he's a villain. And it's a mystery finding out what really happened to his girlfriend on that night. And if he did in fact do it, or if he didn't. And I liked it a lot. Again, it kept me guessing, which is what I want from a thriller or a mystery. And I enjoyed it. Oh, next up is More Than Fate by my good friend here on YouTube, Andrea Severson. and her friend Tamsin L. Birch. This book was a fun read. It's a story told from two different women's point of view. One woman is in her 20s, one woman is in her 40s, or 20 and 40, not in there, but 20 and 40. And we get to see what's going on in their lives, and then we get to see their lives sort of entwine. And what I thought was really clever, and I loved this a lot, is the woman in her who's 40, she's a romance novelist, and the woman who's 20 loves romance novels, and this particular author is her favorite. And then we get to see how their lives, you know, intersect. And I thought it was beautifully written, and I thought it was just a lovely, heartwarming story, and yeah, would definitely recommend you check it out. Number 10, we have Man F This House by Brian Asman. I thought this one was a really fun read. It's about a haunted house, as the title might imply. It was different than I thought it was going to be, but it was a fun read. That's the best way to put it, a fun read. It starts off with this family of four moving into what they think is their dream house, but of course turns out to be a nightmare. And then towards the end, things just go entirely off the rails in a way that I didn't see coming. And I always like when that happens. At number 9, we have The Overnight Guest by Heather Gudenkauf. This was a great one too. This is about a woman who returns home. Well, it's two separate stories that intermingle, of course. One is a woman who's a writer, and she's come to this house to investigate where some really, really tragic events happened years ago. And then we get the stories from years ago. It's got a bit of that isolation in the winter trope, which I love, that plays a part in the present day story. And then what I love too is it's juxtaposed against a very brutal hot summer in the flashback. So I liked the differences in the climates. I thought that really added something special to it, and I thought it was a great read. It's a quick read too, so you can get through it real quick. Next up, number 8 is Little Weirds by Jenny Slate. This is, as I'm recording this, in my most recent book talk video. It's kind of a collection of essays by comedian Jenny Slate. I thought it was going to be funnier, like a lot funnier, but I think I loved it more because it wasn't. It's definitely funny, but it's written kind of stream of consciousness, and you never know what's coming next. And I just thought it was a really sweet peek into her life. Number 7, Coyote Songs by Gabino Iglesias. I don't even know how to describe this one. It was a good read though. Honestly, it's just a few different stories that take place in New Mexico, or Texas and Mexico, and there's a few different stories, and they're all happening. We're sort of cycling through, and it's hard to just give a quick 1 or 2 sentence synopsis because it's not that kind of story. But I did a whole book talk on it if you want to go check that out. But, and maybe it's better to go in fairly blind as I did, but it was a great story. Or great stories, I should say. Next up, number 6, The Long Weekend by Jilly McMillan. And this one was great. My one complaint when I had read it and when I did the book talk was that it's kind of just cut into 2 pieces. There's no chapters, and that drives me nuts. But, I liked it. It was about a group of women who go for a weekend away. Their husbands are supposed to join them, but because of various different circumstances, they're there the first night on their own, and things just really kick off when they get to the cabin where they're staying, and there's a bottle of champagne along with a very cryptic note that says, by the time you read this, one of your husbands will be dead. And like, what do you even do at that point when you get that kind of letter? So it just really snowballs from there, and I thought it was a fun read. Number 5, we're getting into the real good ones now. Number 5, The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. This one is about a group of individuals that live in this apartment building in Paris, just like the title suggests. And we just get to know all of these characters, these people that live in this apartment. And as the story goes on, we get to see how their lives intertwine. What kicks it all off is this girl comes to stay with her brother. She's coming on sort of short notice, but he knows she's on her way. And when she gets there, he's not there. He's not in the apartment, and as the days go on, he doesn't show up. So she's kind of on a mission to figure out, where is he? What happened to him? And I thought it was good. It's one of those that will keep your interest. It's a quick read, will keep you interested in guessing. Number 4, I loved this one. Number 4 is They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. This book is kind of a revenge fantasy type of novel about a woman who is doing very bad things to men on a college campus who do very, very bad things. Men who are guilty of sexual assault. She is taking them out one by one. And we're getting a couple different points of view throughout the story that lead to a really great twist that I did not see coming. And I would definitely recommend that book if you are not too sensitive to sexual assault scenes, because there are, it is talked about quite a bit in the story, which I did find a little difficult to read, but I was enjoying the ride so much that I was able to just sort of get through with that. Number 3, Beneath the Stairs by Jennifer Fawcett. This was a great story. This was a story of a girl who gets a call from her childhood best friend's parents saying like, hey, our daughter, she tried to take her own life in the old creepy haunted house that you two knew about back when you were kids. And as they were taking her to the hospital, she said your name, please come here. And so she does. And that's kind of, the inciting incident that leads to everything else that happens. So from there we get the backstory of the kids, of the women when they were kids, the house, everything like that. It's great. It's definitely more of a character-driven story than a plot-driven one, I guess you'd say. It's definitely character-driven. The house isn't so much a big deal as it is the characters and the journey that they're on. So, loved it. It's definitely not horror. It's not super scary. So if you've heard about it and you're like, I don't know, I don't love horror, you don't have to worry about that. It's not too scary. The house is just kind of the backdrop for the rest of the story, as opposed to some of my favorite haunted house stories that the house plays a bigger part. Next up, number 2 is Gallant by V.E. Schwab. I ordered this book before I realized that it's a YA. Only because I don't really tend to read a lot of those, but I had heard people talking about it and saying how much they loved it. So I was just like, yep, me next. I'm gonna read it. And I loved it. As you can tell, it's sitting at the number 2 spot. It's so good. It's about a young girl who grew up in an orphanage with nothing but her mom's journal as like kind of a piece of her past. And one day she gets a letter from a man who claims to be her uncle, who says it's time for her to come home. They've been searching for her for years. So she leaves the orphanage and she heads back to her family home where her mom grew up, called Gallant. That's the name of the home. It's a fancy mansion. And from there, the story really kicks off. I loved it. And more than that, I would have loved it when I was a kid. This is the exact type of slightly spooky, or maybe more than slightly spooky. There were definitely some parts I was like, ooh, spooky adventure of a girl in an old fancy house. It would have ticked all the boxes for Shannon when she was a kid. And I just loved it. I can't wait until like my niece and nephew are old enough that I can give them copies of this book. It's many years from now. They're very young, but someday. I think it's just a great young adult adventure story. You could even read it like if you've got 9, 10, 11 year olds that love to read. I would have been old enough for that book, 9, 10. And it was just great. So it'd be great for kids, but it was also great for me. It held up. It was a great, just all around good story. I can't say enough good things about it, honestly. And finally, number 1. This book, this was the first book I read this year. And so far it has held up as my favorite. And that is The Sentence by Louise Erdrich. This book was so good. Again, it's one that's hard to describe because there's just so much going on. And so much going on that at times it can almost feel a little overwhelming, but if you stick with it, the payoff is so good. It's about a woman who works in a bookstore. It deals with a lot of really topical themes, racism. Plus, it's a bit of a ghost story in a few different ways, and it's just so good. It is so good. I'm not going to say anything more about it. I got, again, a whole book talk on it if you want like the in-depth. But it's so good. I would definitely recommend. So those top 3, The Sentence, Gallant, Beneath the Stairs, run, don't walk. Check them all out. All these, except for those last 2. But thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, don't forget to check out the links to Jordalene's channel down below. And I will see you again real soon with another book talk, where we will finally be talking about The Children on the Hill by Jennifer McMahon. Bye, guys.